Hey, what's up guys? Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. Here in today's video, I want to talk about the relationship between the modes of the major scale and the pentatonic scale. So something that I see a lot of beginners just not understanding is the connection between the pentatonic scale and the diatonic scale. When I say the diatonic scale, that could mean the major scale, that could mean the natural minor scale, that could also mean any of the other modes. That could mean the Dorian scale, the Phrygian scale, the Mixolydian scale, the Lydian scale. It's the same scale. It's the 7-note diatonic scale. The pentatonic scale is just 5 of those 7 total notes. A lot of beginners, they see the pentatonic scale as like this one unique scale, which is typically going to be the first scale that they learn. And then there's like this other scale that they learn separately, the major scale, they call it. And the major scale is just another name for the diatonic scale. The major scale, the diatonic scale, is 7 notes. The pentatonic scale is just 5 of those 7 total notes. So if you know your pentatonic scale, you know your 5 pentatonic positions, you can play the pentatonic scale up and down the neck of the guitar. You're 5/7 of the way to learning the diatonic scale. It's not like you need to learn the pentatonic scale and then you need to learn this completely separate scale that has no relationship to the pentatonic scale. You're 5/7 of the way there by knowing the pentatonic scale. So to demonstrate this entire lesson is going to be in the key of C major. We just like to use the key of C major to demonstrate music theory concepts because there's no sharps or flats in that key. The 7 notes of the key of C major are C, D, E, F, G, A, B. There's no like C sharps or D flats or anything like that. It just makes explaining music theory concepts that much easier. The same stuff that I talk about in today's video would apply to any of the 12 key signatures. We're just working in the one of the 12 key signatures that happens to not have any sharps or flats in it. With that said, let's now look at where all of those C, D, E, F, G, A, and B notes are across the entire fretboard. So what you see here is the diatonic framework for the key of C major. There's only 7 notes displayed here. You only see C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. So if you play any of these notes in any order, you're going to be playing in key for the key signature of C major. Now there's several different ways that you can break this diatonic framework up into individual patterns, and the common ways, the 3 most common ways that I have found are you can break this up using just 3 patterns, you can break this up using 5 patterns, you can break this up using 7 patterns. I have a video that compares the 3 different methods of breaking up this diatonic scale into various different patterns, 3 versus 5 versus 7. If you want to check that video out, I'll post a link to that. So for this video, we're going to be looking at the 5 pattern approach to breaking up this diatonic framework into individual box patterns. So when we use the 5 pattern approach, what we're actually doing is we're looking at the 5 pentatonic positions. So looking at this diatonic framework again, you can see that some of the notes are colored yellow. Those yellow notes are the pentatonic notes for this key signature. So as we said, we're in the key signature of C major, which contains the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. That's the full 7-note diatonic scale for this key signature. The 5 pentatonic notes for the C major pentatonic scale, you're just omitting the B and the F. So C, D, E, G, A, then you're back at C again. And then when you want to take this a step further, you can just look at each of the 5 pentatonic positions and see where the 2 additional notes fit into each of the 5 positions. So here's your position number 1, see where the B and F fit in there. Here's your position number 2, see where the B and F fit in there. Position 3, position 4, position 5, then you're back at position 1 again. So you have your 5 pentatonic positions. The yellow notes are the pentatonic notes, and then the notes that are not colored yellow are those 2 extra notes that you add to each position to create the full 7-note diatonic scale, also known as the C major scale. So if you use this diatonic framework at any place on the entire fretboard, you're just sticking to these 7 notes, and you play it over a C major chord. It's just a C major chord being looped over and over. The sound that you hear is going to be called the C Ionian mode sound. Modes are sounds. Modes are sounds that are a result of taking a diatonic framework and then playing them over one of the chords that are found in the key. Now, if you want to, you can reduce the amount of notes that you use for your soloing framework. You can still use the entire fretboard if you want, but instead of using the entire 7-note palette of notes for this key signature, C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, you can just reduce your total notes used to just the 5 pentatonic notes. You're still going to be playing in key. The resulting sound is still going to be that happy major type of sound. It's just you're only using 5 of the 7 total notes, so it's going to have like a pentatonic-y type of sound. When you add in those 2 additional notes and you're now using the full 7-note scale, the full 7-note diatonic scale, it just opens up so many more melodic possibilities. You're getting the full modal flavor out of your playing, which in this case, we're only focusing on the C Ionian mode at this point in time in this video. The main thing I want you to understand here is the relationship between pentatonic and diatonic. You have your 5 pentatonic notes, you add those 2 additional notes to it, and then you have your 7-note diatonic scale. All right, so we've got the relationship between the full 7-note diatonic scale, also known as the major scale, and the major pentatonic scale. That's where we're at so far. Now let's look at some modes. So the next mode I want to talk about is the Aeolian mode. So far we've looked at just the Ionian mode, and another name for the Ionian mode is just a major key. The Aeolian mode, another name for the Aeolian mode is just a minor key. So Ionian mode, Aeolian mode, those are just fancy names for a major key or a minor key. So when we're looking at the Aeolian mode of this key signature, everything's the same. You still have the same 7-note framework to work with, the same diatonic framework, the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. It's just that your tonal center is now going to be A instead of C. Aside from that tonal center change, everything else is 100% the same. You still have the same 7 notes, and then if you want to reduce your playing to the 5-note pentatonic scale, again, you're going to be left with the exact same 5 notes. The 5 pentatonic notes are A, C, D, E, and G. Those 5 notes could be found all up and down the entire neck of the guitar. Here's your pentatonic position number 1, position 2, position 3, 4, 5, and then back at 1 again. So you have your 5 pentatonic positions. You can add your 2 additional notes to each of the 5 positions. The notes B and F are those extra notes added. So far we've looked at 2 of the 7 total modes of this key signature. So in any given key signature, you have your 7 notes, and then you have 7 chords. The way to get a mode out of a key signature is you take your 7 notes of the key signature, that's your soloing framework. You have the whole entire neck of the guitar to use those 7 notes for whatever key signature you're playing in. And then you play those 7 notes over one of the 7 chords. Depending on which one of the 7 chords that you play it over dictates the mode. So far we've looked at the first chord in this key signature, which is a C major chord that results in the Ionian mode. We've also looked at the 6th chord in this key signature, which is the A minor chord that results in the Aeolian mode. We have these other 5 chords though, and those are the other 5 modes. So D minor equates with Dorian mode, E minor equates with Phrygian mode, F major, Lydian mode, G major, Mixolydian mode. And then the 7th chord in any key signature is a diminished type of chord that equates with the Locrian mode. You can also call these scales too if you want. You can call this the Ionian scale, the Dorian scale, the Phrygian scale, Lydian scale, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian scale. You can call them scales too. If you're just looking at the 7 notes and you're not playing it in context, you're not playing it over a chord, you're not creating music, you're not creating a sound, then it's not called a mode, it's just called a scale. That's the difference between a scale and a mode. But you can see that the Ionian scale shares the same notes as the Dorian scale. It shares the same notes as the Phrygian scale. All of these 7 scales, they share the exact same notes as each other. The only difference is, are you playing those 7 notes over a C major chord? Then it's Ionian mode. Are you playing it over a D minor chord? Then it's the Dorian mode. Are you playing it over an E minor chord? Then it's the Phrygian mode. Depending on which one of the 7 chords that you play that 7-note framework over dictates the sound, also known as the mode. So just to demonstrate this, I'm going to take this same framework that we're already using, the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, no sharps, no flats. This is our key signature. This is our diatonic framework for this key signature. And I'm just going to noodle around, but I'm going to play it over a D minor chord. So listen to how this sounds. So that sound that you were just hearing right there, that is the Dorian sound. Let me now try playing the exact same framework of notes as my soloing framework, but now I'm going to play it over an E minor chord. That sound that you just heard, that was the Phrygian sound. So you see how this is working? The same soloing framework, the difference being the underlying chord that you're playing the soloing framework over, that is what is dictating the sound of the mode. Now, just as we did before, if I want to, I can either utilize the full 7-note diatonic scale to get the full range of melodic possibilities for whatever mode I'm trying to go for, or I can always reduce my playing to just a 5-note pentatonic scale if I want to. I'll still be playing in key, I just won't be using the full 7-note palette of notes that I have at my disposal for the key signature that we're playing in. The cool thing, and this is the main point of the video that I'm trying to get across, is that there's more pentatonics within this 7-note diatonic framework that you can reduce to. So far we've taken this 7-note pentatonic scale and we've reduced it to the A minor pentatonic scale or the C major pentatonic scale, which happen to share the same 5 notes as one another. So I'm just going to call that one of the possible pentatonics. A minor, C major, it's the same 5 notes. We're just going to call that one of the possible pentatonics. Let's say that I'm using this diatonic framework and I'm playing it over a D minor chord, therefore producing the sound of the Dorian mode. If I want to reduce to a pentatonic scale, I can reduce to the D minor pentatonic scale. So if you look at the D minor pentatonic scale, your 5 notes there are D, F, G, A, and C. So those are all part of this overall 7-note diatonic framework here. There's no sharps, there's no flats. You're still 100% playing in key if you choose to reduce your 7-note playing to the 5-note pentatonic scale, this D minor pentatonic scale. So it's a different pentatonic scale. It's a different reduction of notes now, but it's still keeping us in key. We're not going out of key. We're not introducing any sharps. We're not introducing any flats. We're still remaining within this key signature. This is just another option that we have. So now instead of calling this our pentatonic position number 1 here between frets 5 and 8, we could instead say that our pentatonic position number 1 is up here in between frets 10 and 13. And then of course, that's just pentatonic position number 1. You have your 5 pentatonic positions now in relation to this first one. So pentatonic position number 1, position 2, 3, 4, 5. If that's 1, that's 5, that's 4, that's 3, and so on. So what we've done is we found a new pentatonic scale embedded within this 7-note diatonic framework of the key signature that we're working in, the parent key signature. The parent key signature that we've been in the entire time is C major. So we have the one pentatonic, that's those 5 notes, that's the A, C, D, E, G. Those are the 5 notes of the A minor pentatonic scale, those are the 5 notes of the C major pentatonic scale. We've just determined that there's this other pentatonic scale embedded within this 7-note framework as well. That's the D minor pentatonic scale. For every minor pentatonic scale, there's an associated relative major pentatonic scale that also shares the same 5 notes. So D minor pentatonic and F major pentatonic, they share the same 5 notes. That tells you that, let's say you're playing in the Lydian mode of this key signature that we're working in. The Lydian mode is based off the 4th chord being in the rhythm section as your underlying sound producer, the driver of the sound. So far we found 2 pentatonics embedded within this diatonic framework. There's a third one as well, and that would be the E minor pentatonic, which has the relative major of G major pentatonic. They share the same 5 notes as each other. The E minor pentatonic notes are E, G, A, B, and D. The G major pentatonic notes are the same 5 notes. So again, we could say that this is our pentatonic position number 1 in this case. We still have the same 7-note diatonic framework. We're just reducing it to a 5-note pentatonic scale, rather than reducing it to the A minor or C major pentatonic scale, or rather than reducing it to the D minor F major pentatonic scale. We're now going to reduce it to this pentatonic scale. We'll reduce it to the E minor G major pentatonic scale. So if our position number 1 is here, position 2, position 3, position 4, position 1 is here, position 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is all the way down here. So now you have yet a different diatonic framework embedded within this 7-note diatonic framework that we've been in the entire time. So this is the connection between the diatonic scale, the modes of the diatonic scale, and the pentatonic scale. You have your key signature, you have your 7-note diatonic framework. That remains constant for all 7 of the possible modes of the key signature. If you want to get a modal sound out of this diatonic framework, just playing the scale alone, it's not really going to do it. You really need a chord underneath you to really strengthen the sound, to really say, okay, this is the Ionian sound. Playing the scale alone is not going to do it. Play that scale, but you have a C major chord looping in the rhythm. Now you're getting the Ionian sound. You want to reduce your playing. Which pentatonic are you going to go with? C major chord, C major pentatonic. You want to extract a different modal sound out of this 7-note diatonic framework. How do you do that? You switch the chord for which you play the scale over. Same framework, play it over an A minor chord now. The resulting sound is now going to be the Aeolian mode sound. If you want to reduce to a pentatonic, which pentatonic scale are you going to reduce it to? A minor chord, A Aeolian, A minor pentatonic seems to make the most sense, right? That would be the pentatonic that I would reduce to in that situation. So then the same thing, you're playing over a D minor chord. You want to use the full 7-note diatonic scale to get the full modal sound. You play it over a D minor chord. The result is going to be Dorian. You want to reduce it to a pentatonic scale. Which pentatonic scale are you going to go with? D minor pentatonic makes the most sense. Over an E minor chord, you want to reduce it to a pentatonic scale. The E minor pentatonic scale makes the most sense. F major pentatonic scale in the F Lydian context. G major pentatonic scale in the G Mixolydian context. And then you're just left with that seventh one, that oddball, that Locrian mode, that one that is based off not a major chord, it's not based off a minor chord, it's based off of a diminished type of chord. Diminished chords they're very tense. They don't have that sense of stability. They don't have that sense of, I'm home. That is the end of the song. Diminished chords, they want to move somewhere. That's why it's difficult to write music in the Locrian mode, or that's why it's difficult to write music that has a diminished chord as its home, because diminished chords just by definition are tension and they want to move somewhere. So the Locrian mode, that chord, it doesn't connect directly with any major pentatonic scale or any minor pentatonic scale because it's not associated with a major chord or a minor chord. If you're trying to play in a Locrian mode context and you don't want to utilize the full 7-note scale and you want to reduce it to some sort of pentatonic scale, the pentatonic that you're going to use is going to be a root, a minor third, a fourth, a flat 5, and then a flat 7. So it's kind of like this funky little 5-note pentatonic variation. I don't want this video to go too long. I will talk more about the Locrian mode and half diminished chords and all that stuff in an upcoming video. But for today's video, I just really wanted to stress the point of this whole major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, how there's multiple pentatonics found within any given key signature, and how each of these pentatonics associates with one of the chords within the key signature, and then by extension, each of the modes of the key signature. So that's what today's video is about. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.